People have just started to join. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good morning to all of you joining in. Let us know you're here. Quickly introduce yourself on the chat. My name is Aparna. I'm going to be your host. We've got William, who's going to take us through the session, who's going to help you understand how you can start your ethical hacking career, what you exactly need to do, what are the steps that you need to follow, what are your options in ethical hacking, all of that. Okay, so quickly let us know your names and the city that you're you're joining us from. You can do that on the chat. And let me see. We're also actually live on YouTube and LinkedIn. So in case you're joining us from either of these platforms, quickly also introduce yourselves. Yeah. Yes. So I'm looking at the live chat on YouTube too. Johnny, hi. Okay, Michael, you've got Krishna, we've got Kritika, we've got Netra, Bala, Rajiv, Sarovar, Jay from Jacksonville. Okay, Marvis, someone from UK. Okay, Kiran, hi. Rosanna, Daniel, Pooja. Hello, Balachandra. A lot of you are introducing yourself, which is great. Jitendra, hi. Right. Hi, Hemasundar. Nice to have you. Great. Great. Actually, a lot of you are giving in, what you work as. So it'll actually be amazing to know. What I'm going to do is to just launch a very quick poll to understand your professional background. And Bill, this is also for you to understand the audience. Yeah. Let us know what your background is. Okay. And while you guys do that, this is the agenda for today. We're going to help you understand, this question that all of you might have. Okay, can anyone start? Can I start with zero background in cybersecurity? What do I need to know exactly? And what kind of skills do I need to demonstrate if I'm talking to a potential employer? And also towards the end, we'll help you understand how the CEH certification training helps you achieve and eventually pick up a career in ethical hacking. We'll also take questions. So let's say you've got questions for William, please put them on the Q&A box. Remember that the chat box, has a lot of responses. You guys interact with us on the chat periodically, so we might miss questions that come in. Use the Q&A box and we'll get them answered towards the end of the session. Okay, and once you've posted a question, just wait for it to get answered. Do not post it again. And some basic questions that you guys might have. Yes, the session is being recorded. So in case you miss something, do not worry, we'll share the recording later. And also, if you are interested in receiving a webinar certificate, we'll also be asking you your name towards the end. So that also will happen after the Q&A is done. So make sure you hang on till the end to understand, of course, your roadmap to becoming an ethical hacker and also receiving the webinar certificate. Okay. And with this, I'm just going to end the poll right here. And Bill, I'm sharing these results with everyone. I hope you're able to see them. Yeah. So a lot of them are actually students. Some of them already have the background in IT. Some of them come from a non-tech, very few people. Also a few people who didn't get callbacks. Okay. Great, our coach Anang, James, welcome to the session. Welcome everyone. who's joining in, and people on LinkedIn and YouTube. Just make sure you use options on your screen. Whatever you see, you could answer the poll based on that. Yeah, so that's the agenda of today, guys. And this was the poll that I was about to ask you. I'll just quickly introduce Simplilearn to you. But before we start, are you guys clear with the instructions, that I gave? So about the recording, about the webinar certificate, are you all clear? If you can just give me a thumbs up or anything on the chat, anything of that sort. Yeah. I'm just trying to get the basic questions out of the way, that when we do the session, we're not interrupted by these questions. Okay, so we'll launch a poll towards the end of the session after the Q&A is done. And that's how you will enter your name. And tomorrow you will receive the certificate and the recording as an email. Okay? Yeah? All right. Amazing. Great. I think everybody is ready to get started, Bill. So I think let me just start by introducing Simplilearn, and then I'll hand it over to Bill for his introduction. So what we do is that we offer skills in various tech digital domains for you guys to be ready and take on careers in any of these domains that you see, which is AI, machine learning, data science, cybersecurity. Also, we've got courses in Agile and Scrum, project management. And what we're proud of is that, we've touched more than 8 million careers worldwide, with 15 years being operational. We've touched learners from 150 plus countries. We've got 40 plus global accreditations and a lot of qualified trainers who train you, help you gain the skills that employers are looking for. Right? So we've partnered with leading universities and organizations for offering these courses. Some of these that you see here are examples. There are, of course, more and many such partners from the industry, and also a lot of leading universities in India and outside of India as well, right? So something that our learners have achieved is that some learners have actually reported salary hikes due to upskilling through our courses. A lot of learners have eventually gone on and completed our courses and also rated these courses 4.8 on 5. So this shows the quality of upskilling and training that we offer. And with this, let me introduce Bill to you. So Bill is an information security, privacy and risk consultant. He's got more than 25 years of cross-industry experience. He's got experience working as a consultant for finance, healthcare, a lot of other domains as well. And he's also a senior cybersecurity instructor at Simplilearn, and is also the adjunct faculty at Fox School of Business. Bill, it's amazing to have you. So you prefer being called Bill. So a lot of learners were trying to maybe address him, who could call him Bill as well. So Bill, I'll hand it over to you for the introduction, and then we'll jump right in. You're on mute.
Yes, I put myself on mute there, partially because I was responding to someone in chat, and I didn't want you to hear my keyboard clickety-clack as I typed there, because we always get those questions about, how do I get my certificate? And I said, well, there's going to be a poll at the end, and that is where you type your name. If you put your email address in chat now, that would be called self-disclosure. We all know now your email address, and we don't encourage that. That's why we Simplilearn, or any environment. It's like, oh, if I'm asking for information, I'm going to ask for it in a sensitive, not in a more private manner, where not everybody gets to see your email address.
Yeah.
So please do not put your email address in chat.
Why are you guys doing it?
Because now we have AI, we have artificial intelligence, and AI is going to say, hey, look, I looked at the chat's transcript and I've got these email addresses. Let me go send them all sorts of things like, today I'm like, what is this phone call? And it's something about a status of a roadside assistance claim. I'm like, wait, I didn't call, right? They were trying to prompt me. They were trying to fish me, right? Or vish in this case, they were trying to get information from me over the phone. So don't volunteer your information only when right? Only when you know that it's going directly to the organization. And chat does not count because we have, I don't know how many people here today. We have hundreds of peoples in the little participants windows that I can see. And I know this screen is only the people on Zoom natively, does not
Yeah.
include LinkedIn, does not include YouTube.
Yeah.
So there you go. You got a little bonus cybersecurity tip is, don't share your email address. So about me, yeah, I have been in cybersecurity. It's funny, I think my first role where it's like, they put the title antivirus in my job title. Oh, I'm now officially considered, information security or cybersecurity. And so I've worked across different industries, so it's, financial services, banking, financial services, insurance. Yeah, I've worked with retail groups. I've worked with healthcare groups. I've worked with infrastructure groups. They all have they have similar problems, and then they just get their own little customization of, so, your utility companies, they have all these legacy equipment, and it's very problematic because you can't just switch things off. So
Mm.
how do you do an upgrade? You can't. It's very challenging, I'll just say. And I've presented at conferences, various BSides conferences, which are local conferences, as well as information sharing and analysis consortiums. That's like a FS-ISAC. And and I've worked with multiple institutions over the years, of course. It's just different schools, different universities over time. And so at this point now for Simplilearn, I don't know how long we've been going. And I think some of the first courses were project management, the PMP certification, but accredited trainer across the gamut there. And I love trying to help learners learn more.
Mm.
And but I was fortunate at the time. I was able to avail myself of certain programs, and it's how do others then uh, find their find their path. And so it's great to talk about some of these certifications. What are these? And how do you get a career? And there are different paths you could choose to take. And we'll during today we'll talk about some of those paths in regards to this. How do I become an ethical hacker? How do I become a pen tester? How do I do that career? And that's where we'll go today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before that, Bill, should we do this? Should we actually talk about what ethical hackers do? Maybe you could take them through 5 different phases of ethical hacking.
Sure. Uh, so ethical hacking, and I think we have a slide for that, don't we? I think we
Yeah.
actually just
Oh,
tweaked
wait,
that slide.
didn't I switch my slide? Okay, one sec. Sorry.
No. And
No.
of course, right now I
Ah,
have a penetration tester who just entered my room.
oh,
Um, I have a cat who just entered my room.
okay.
Yes, cat. Okay, I know you're upset. You missed me. I know. I was away, and you were upset. Okay, come on, let's go now. I'll talk to you later. Oh, okay. See, penetration testers, hackers, they like to get access to things. And it's sometimes I want to break stuff right now. We're gonna now one of the key things, of course, is that an ethical hacker is testing an organization's systems, processes, infrastructure, workflows because the goal is to find the problems before a malicious actor does. And that's the ethical hacker has permission. So it's, oh, I like to break stuff. I like to break in. I like to find ways that I can get around the system, right?
Mm.
But an ethical hacker does so with permission is one of the first key things, of course, is they have permission of the organization that they're doing it with. Whereas the malicious actor does not. In the malicious actor, you don't know what their goals are because you didn't hire them, and they're just working, on covertly to try to achieve their objectives. Ethical hackers, they go through a series of cycles,
Mm.
and so it really is. It's kind of cyclical how this works through because first you perform this reconnaissance, you learn about your target. You You go get email addresses, actually. And that's why I was commenting about that is, oh, let's go find email addresses of people. Let's go look at social profiles of people, and let's find out like the job postings. What kind of systems does this organization use? Because they put it out there and it became public knowledge, right? Once it's out there on the internet, everybody knows about it. And oftentimes, if you're looking at an organization just from the outside, I've seen job descriptions where they literally identify the entire tech stack. Exact, like, oh, they use Microsoft Defender XYZ, ATP, right? They'll use the FireEye appliances. Oh, we use Cisco UCS. We use all of these proof points. They'll name specific products. And now, of course, as an attacker, I'm going to try to see what I can learn because every little bit of information I can get, it's going to help the later stages go better. And I'm going to write this, I'm going to record this in a notebook of some sort. And then I'm going to scan, right, of the systems I become aware about, right? I can go out, pull DNS records. I can find out where their IP address range is. And we can scan those systems. We can enumerate the different systems that are out there. And then, of course, the first step is to gain access on something, to get that initial foothold. And you're at that point, you're an unauthorized user, right? This is you've been able to gain access onto a system, and that's your foothold. And from that point, sometimes I may go back to a little bit more reconnaissance or scanning within the system, but I want to maintain that access as like a malicious actor would. Malicious actors, they don't come in and they don't ransom everything in 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 30 minutes, or they're sitting there for months. If you look at some of the breach reports, you see that a lot of these organizations, somebody was inside that organization for months. And only after they figured out that they had gotten everything that was valuable, they revealed themselves. So you get that permanence within the system, and the target system, and you may have to move east and west because you want to get access to another system. So that's that maintaining access, gaining access. You may sort of go through that cycle. And of course, the whole time you're covering your tracks. You're either, you're covering your tracks and also trying to be as quiet as possible, right? You're sneaking up. You're not making it obvious what you're doing. And, so this is, the ethical hacker, what do they do? But it's important to note that it's not just all hacking. And you have to be able, at the end of the day, produce a report that provides the impact of what you did to a business, to an organization. It's part of that reporting and the communication. And that's something that it is, it could be a challenge sometimes to realize, oh, this is how I report that. It's not just running a tool. It's not running an automated package. And I can't tell you that some of the solutions that have talked about automated solutions, you have to go in and you have to filter those results because it'll have some detection. And well, actually, there was one yesterday, and I forget the CVE number, but there was a CVE for Microsoft, but it was specific to domain controllers. And the reason that piqued my interest was because the sky is falling. I have this vulnerability, but it's not a domain controller. It was an isolated system, so it did not join a domain. So does that CVE actually apply to this organization? Well, no, because it's not a domain. And if it's not a domain, that this vulnerability is specific to Active Directory, carry on, folks. There's nothing to see here. And that would be something I fully expect we're going to see in the coming weeks is going to be a vulnerability scanner is going to pick it up. And if it's automated, it's just going to spit it out and say, look, you're vulnerable to CVE, 2025, 0366 or whatever the heck that number ends up being. It's published and it's on CISA's list for the known exploited vulnerabilities. But like in healthcare, it's common to have standalone systems. that it's a biomedical type of system, clinical type of system. I've seen them where they wheel it out to the clinical area, and then they have to wheel it back. So it never joins a domain. And of course, why do they do that? That's actually part of the vulnerability of that system. One of the covered entities, they had to do it because people were stealing it. They had cases where people would take this computing system that was used for medical processes, medical testing, and they'd have people in the hospital that would just take the system and walk out the door with it. So it was never going to join a domain because it was never going to be permanently in that hallway.
Right.
So yeah, it's
Got
soft skills, of course. There's some skits over the years. Oh, you're having technical problem. Move. Does it work? Does it win you friends at all? It's the soft skills of realizing where someone's coming from and working with them so that they understand the message. Not just here's the message, but is it in a way that they can understand the message, and why is that message important to them?
Got it. So I think someone had this question, Pramod from our LinkedIn stream, had this question about what do we define, how do we define ethical hacking? I think this explanation pretty much summarizes that, and also, what they do on a day-to-day basis. So I know you already said this enough about why we need ethical hackers. You started off with that example of why we shouldn't be sharing our email IDs on public forums, but maybe if you could just reiterate very quickly about the importance from an industry standpoint as well, if you can share that with the learners.
Well, yeah, from an industry standpoint, why do organizations need ethical hackers? So there are payment cards and PCI DSS, the payment card industry data security standard. PCI DSS does have a requirement that you must perform a penetration test at least once a year, but only of your cardholder data environment. So and all they care about are those precious 15 or 16 digits on the cards, the CVV, the track data. Really just the cards. And just the systems that process those cards. So that doesn't extend to anything else. There are reporting standards in the United States and in other countries. In the United States, we have the SOC reports, SOC 1 and SOC 2. And so they do expect to see a pen test performed at least once a year. And the reason why they did that is because, as it says on the slide here, yes, all of this information, it is digital, it is stored digitally. It is an attractive treasure trove. Why do robbers go to banks? Because that's where the money is, right? And so I want to get something that's valuable. I want to get, credit card information is ironically not one of the most valuable assets. You can still get something from it, but actually, healthcare data is something that is extremely valuable. And if you think about it for a moment, because you can't change your health, and that healthcare information, you can't just change it. I can't just give you like a credit card number I could just replace, but I can't change your healthcare data. And knowing that diagnosis can be useful in other attacks. And their treasure troves a lot of information out there. And when an organization has a loss, there are settlements that are made. There are legal fines that organizations have to pay. The organization may have to pay the people who were hurt by the breach. And of course, there's also the damaged reputation. And so, let me see, do I trust XYZ Corporation with my data? And you may have to think long and hard about that. Whether you want to do business with an organization that has suffered a data loss. And sometimes there are other costs, like years ago when Target had their big breach, they issued these notices to customers that they could come in and they could get 10% off any purchase. and usually the best you got was 5%. So yeah, we had a breach. We want you to trust us again. So here's an additional 5% off if you come within the next month. So that was another type of loss for them, really. They realized that, in the case of Target competes with other retailers in the United States. How do we get people back in the door? You know, we have to encourage them to come back.
Mm.
And the ethical hacker basically, it I don't want to say they protect the systems, but they detect the vulnerabilities that are exploitable before the malicious outsider does. And so it is a proactive measure. It helps prevent the breach because you detect it under the guise of someone who the ethical hacker has permission. You enter into a contract, a non-disclosure agreement, and they test your systems using the same tools, the same techniques that the outsiders would use, but they're working for you. And you could take their report, and if you choose to implement what they found, right? The ethical hacker says X, Y, and Z, do these. We were able to gain access to these systems. This is what we could have done with that access, right? You don't actually break things per se, but you demonstrate the fact that had I not stopped, it would have been broken. We got to the point of entry. We created a user account, and this was not detected by you. Now, we stopped at that point, but just at that point, because now have an account that's under my control, because I've been able to gain that access and set myself in a position to maintain that access. If I had not been working for you, this would be the beginning of data exfiltration, data encryption, leading to ransom demands, things, availability concerns, things of that sort.
All right, got it. I think that definitely emphasizes why we need ethical hackers today. A lot of people here are actually looking to kickstart their career in cybersecurity. So, today in particular, we're going to talk about ethical hacking. So, for all the learners who are looking to start off in ethical hacking, this question is, we're going to answer that question right now, which is, can anyone start a career in ethical hacking? What kind of background or skills would you need to have? So for starters, Bill, do you think someone needs to have a formal degree of sorts to kickstart their career here? What do you think?
No, you don't. Look, I was going to say you need curiosity. That's the key thing. Degrees help you get past HR, human resources, and the various screening processes that HR has. Some organizations have just standardized. You have to have a degree, and part of that is because when you have, I'll just for a moment. Sometimes an organization will say you have to have a degree in part because it demonstrates that you've committed to something that was a long-term commitment and you had to finish it. So some organizations have chosen that they want to have degrees. And the reason I mention that is that the degree does not even have to be in a technology field. So it could be a degree in music, it could be a degree in English, writing, literature, fine art, etc. Those are things that are not technical. So if the organization wants a degree, you may already have a degree that you could use. And then you say, oh, I want to shift to a technology field. And that's where obviously you can get, master's or postgraduate type degrees. That's an option, but again, sometimes that takes a long time. It, could take you, compressed a year to 3 years, right? And of course, all that entails. Yeah, in order to be an ethical hacker, you really just need to be curious and a little persistent. Um, and you have to learn to think like you're evil. And the key word there, of course, is like. You have to put yourself in what could I do? What possible way might I be able to access that system? what would be the impact of that? And looking at those situations, like just this past week, I was at the hotel, and I'm looking at they have that sign that says you have to scan your badge, and actually saw a few of them, and I noticed a few things. I know, and this is that curiosity. I had no ill will towards the organization, but I just was, of course, I'm observing this, and I'm like, it flashed red, but they still let me get on. We actually did that with the elevators too. We played games with the elevators. Oh, my badge doesn't work. Wait, let's come back out here. Oh, wait. Then make it look like it's, oh, wait, I'm on the wrong floor. Walk right behind someone else, stand behind someone, and now you're in the back of the elevator. Oh, could you do me a favor and press what was it? I don't know, 421. Right. Oh, could you push that button for me? Thanks. People do it. Like, oh wow, look at that. People are not looking at certain processes, and it could be your way to get access to something. And it's that curiosity. And it applies to, people. It applies to the information systems. You name it. Everybody's using these systems.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
As
So I
long as you're willing to learn,
yeah.
and to continue, right? Continue thinking of new things, right? Oh, what would happen if I did that? What would happen if I did that?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you start with cookie cutter instructions when you're learning.
Yeah.
Do step one, do step two, do step three, do step four, do step five. But as you learn, you transition into this curiosity,
Hmm.
because you know how to do like the basic steps, and then you go, okay, well, what if I pull this out of my bag of tricks? What if I pull this other thing out of my bag of tricks?
Hmm. Hmm. Got it. So as that happens as we learn, I guess it's not going to come in the beginning, but maybe as we progress. So just to summarize, Bill, you're just saying that you don't really need computer science degree, but obviously all you need to have is the curiosity and willing to learn. I think that's exactly what gets you to, become an ethical hacker. So I'm just going to take a few questions here, Bill. We've got, um, a very interesting question. Actually, I'm just going to take a couple of them right now. So Bala has a question. Not now, everyone is using AI. Cybersecurity. Will cybersecurity jobs be safe, and especially ethical hackers? Because there are a lot of playbooks running based on previous incidents. So, is AI really going to, I mean, take away, not take away exactly, but is AI going to kind of make certain roles redundant? What are your thoughts here?
So AI will automate a lot of things. And I know, looking at having taught the CEH curriculum, there are labs specifically around using AI. Although a lot of times the things that you could do with AI are the same things you could do manually. You could still do the steps yourself. If you could enter the commands, you could do, get access to a system. With AI, you could pay for some credits, and it could automate some of those steps.
Hmm.
And some people say, well, what if I can automate the steps? Does that mean I'm going to no longer need the people? Well, no, because AI has a problem with hallucination. It really does. And AI can only do so much. And AI is only as good as how it's been programmed. And that's where, teaching a computer to act like a human, it's a tough game. AI is doing a good job, very good job of doing it, but it's not quite there. It doesn't, because computers don't inherently know how to be evil or think like they're evil.
Hmm.
And that's what you're trying to, that's what an ethical hacker has to do is, think like they're evil.
Got it.
The and AI will make answers up. AI will say, "Oh, this is the answer," and you still need people to vet the answer.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
actually, we were talking about that. You found an AI answer for a question prior to us getting on today's webinar, and
Hmm.
AI gave you an answer, and I said, "No, that answer's wrong." And that is where ethical hackers, or really anybody in cybersecurity, or anybody who's using AI, let's face it, you can't just take an answer and take it as truth.
Mm.
You have to look at that answer and say, does this answer make sense? Is
Yeah.
it plausible?
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
yeah, so I can't just take an automated answer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do have to do some manual checks. And in fact, really, if you look at any of the automated, there are some automated penetration testing tools out there.
Mm.
But before you go back to your client and say, "Oh my gosh, this guy is falling,"
Mm.
and this is that, the soft skills and the communication is, let me go back and let me see if I can manually perform that exploit. So
Mm.
if an automated tool finds something or thinks it found something, you go back and you do some verification
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
before you raise it up the flag and have people making all these drastic changes.
Mm.
Yeah, so is AI going to replace people?
No.
Uh, Not well, because you're going to have the increased use of cloud and AI, distributed resources, these data lakes, these data warehouses. It is only growing. So you may lose a few positions over here, but the scope of what we have to protect is increasing, and you're still going to need people that even if AI says it found a vulnerability, you
Mm.
then go back and you validate it, and
Yeah.
that is going to require people still.
Yeah. And I think as tech is becoming more prominent, it's just becoming, it's expanding its reach everywhere in every domain. It's just going to become more important to protect digital systems. I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Bala, I hope that answers your question, and anybody else who has this question about, how AI is going to play a role. So Michael, we're circling back to the first, Michael has a question, sorry, Bill. We're circling back to something that you mentioned early on when you were introducing yourself. So Michael says, I used malware bytes to search for leaks of my email, and I found a website that is exposing my email. So he has a question: how do I get my email out of this website? I need help here. Precisely why you shouldn't be sharing your emails on a public forum, but Bill, your thoughts.
So I'm typing in the chat here. Have I been pwned? And I hope I typed that correct. Have I been pwned is a website that you can go to. You can put in your email address,
Wow.
and it'll tell you it's been in all these breaches, and it'll tell you all sorts of scary things about the breaches. Um, once your data is out there,
Mm-hmm.
your data is out there.
Hmm.
Uh, it was always funny, and I like the way the healthcare looked at it. In the United States, uh, the HIPAA and high tech, basically the rules that apply to healthcare, they said if data was exfiltrated, you have to assume breach, unless you can find some real tight clarification. Because once the information is out, you
Hmm.
don't know if that information has been copied
Hmm.
and published forth.
Right.
So I know it's not the answer folks want to hear about their email address. Well, my email address is out there. My social security number is out there. My government ID is out there. What can I go? Can I go delete that data?
Hmm.
I, I, no, at that point, I'm pretty much playing cleanup at that point. And I'm being more alert going forward. Like a social security number or government ID, you might be able to get that reissued,
Hmm.
right? Due to fraud situations, you could get that reissued.
Hmm.
If you it's if your email address is getting used a lot, hopefully you've got a good, maybe you've got a good spam filter on it.
Hmm.
But you have to use your awareness,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Now if your passwords, right, have been compromised, I see that comment come in the chat. Now, if your password has been compromised, you could change your password.
Hmm.
And you can use other techniques that they're like a road bump, sort of slow you down, like multi-factor authentication.
Hmm.
And some of the rideshare apps are requiring pins,
Yeah. Yeah.
pin verification, things of that sort. So I can't change the email address, but I could put another layer on top of it, and that will slow down, to reduce the likelihood
Hmm.
of the continued exploitation. Like, okay, you've got my email address. The first thing, of course, if you got my email address and password, change my password, but also go ahead and put multi-factor authentication on top of it. And going forward, you've had that password breached. Uh,
Hmm.
don't use that password anywhere else, right? Strong passwords, or actually they call them passive phrases, where it's a
Hmm.
series of words
Hmm.
that is easy for us to remember, but increase the difficulty of the password cracking utilities.
Hmm. Got it. Great. I think we'll just have one more question taken, and then we'll later shift to how one can become an ethical hacker, what tools, etc. So Daniel has a question. So is there I mean, should we emphasize the importance about curiosity and danger of unethical hacking, that is non-consensual access to IT resources? I think he's talking about what, I mean, consensus within an organization. I think that's what he means to ask.
Well, consent within an organization, it doesn't, I think, permission is the
Mm,
fundamental concern here.
mm,
Uh, Whether you're internal to an organization or external to the organization, uh, you have some sort of permission. And there are these folks that they call them sometimes gray hat folks that they call themselves security researchers. They write a fine line because they
mm,
don't have the permission. They will disclose what they find, the
mm,
vulnerability disclosure, and they're sort of straddling that line of the ethical hacker versus the malicious outsider. As it's a little tricky because there are some folks who, when they don't get what they want, they take revenge.
mm,
So that's where, and I think that the questionnaire, as far as uh, you know, having permission is essential. If you do not have permission, you have become an attacker.
mm,
And I've been in those awkward meetings with someone who they thought they were doing a good thing. They said, well, I ran this vulnerability scanner. I ran this penetration test. I did X, Y, and Z.
mm,
And the management sits there and goes, well, is that is that part of your job description?
mm.
And they sheepishly say no.
Right.
And did we ask you to do this? And they sheepishly say no.
Mm,
And management sometimes will say, and now what do you think the next step is? And they
mm,
sheepishly, making a trip to HR. Yes, correct. You're making a trip to human resources. It may be a very short trip for you. Because it was not done with permission, and organizations have policies, acceptable use policies. So you can't do this without permission, because all of these things that you're doing, at a certain point, you're breaking HR policies. You're breaking the policies of the organization. They say, we entrust you to access our systems in a safe and secure manner to achieve the company objectives, etc. And if you're performing a penetration test against your own organization, that is not what was intended.
yeah.
So permission is definitely essential.
Right.
Now, I don't know. Right now, we have a slide that says 5 steps to become an
Yes.
ethical hacker, and I think that's actually our next slide.
That's absolutely our next slide about strategy. Yeah, you could spend, some time telling them about. So I think the agenda here is not just to tell them the skills, but it also is around practice, because we have a lot of questions on the Q&A box about what kind of lab should they be practicing on, what kind of tools should they be knowing, and how can they leverage this knowledge in an interview as well. So maybe if you could add to this as well.
Absolutely. Now, and I saw someone ask about home labs, and I'm going to mention that in the center.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't see it on this slide here, but well, a personal project. So, and someone said about a home lab, so we'll talk about it there. That's where it does fit there. So on the left side, to become an ethical hacker, you have to understand the skills. You have to understand how networks work. It's not magic. There actually is a methodology to it. You're going to need to know not just Windows, not just Mac, but also Linux, because most of the security utilities you're going to be using are going to be Linux based. You'll want to have some scripting. background, and it could be Bash or it could be Python. You may also want to learn PowerShell, which is our scripting language on Windows. You'll want to know how to use various security tools, and you may be setting up a home lab, and that home lab kind of becomes your personal project. So if you have a machine, virtualization is wonderful because you can install like VMware Workstation or Oracle VirtualBox onto your computer and spin up a virtual machine that is only there when you need it. There are victims or cadavers, if you will. One of them is called Metasploitable. And I'll type that in the chat just so people can see that. Metasploitable. Metasploitable is an intentionally vulnerable virtual machine. And so the question about that home lab, yeah, you set up a software-based hypervisor, and then you spin up a virtual machine, and so it could be Kali Linux or it could be Parrot Security. Those are two leading penetration testing distributions. There are others, but those are just the two big ones that people usually think of. And then you can set up additional virtual machines in your own little project environment, and you can work through using Metasploitable as your victim or your cadaver, if you will, right? There are many different products out there, right? Now there are some lab solutions subscriptions that you can subscribe to, and so we mentioned like try Hack Me and Hack the Box. They've got subscription services. There's a certain level that you could do for free without paying. And of course, if you do use these services, use what you can get for free and fully vet that out. Don't jump in and pay right away, right? Because I know a lot of us, your career transition, you don't have a lot of money. Take advantage of everything you can. Then there are real world scenarios. CTF stands for Capture the Flag. In fact, those subscription services are set up quite often like Capture the Flag, where you'll go through a series of steps and there will be a flag or an answer that you will find. And so that's where, there are cybersecurity communities around the world. You don't have to go to Las Vegas and attend DEF CON. There are local security meetups that have CTFs or capture the flags. So that's your practice zones, right? There are all three of these three practice zones. You have permission, right? You can use these practice zones. I think actually another one is if you're pursuing like the Certified Ethical Hacker curriculum, they actually have their own lab environment, which is specifically accompanies the curriculum, and there were some of the best labs I've seen because they're pretty rock solid. The labs they have the series of steps that you go through. You get that muscle memory of how to perform these penetration testing steps. And it's sort of, and that's why it's that muscle, like the lab becomes your muscle memory because you're not going to remember the command line switches. That's going to be really hard to memorize unless you've actually been using it. So you master the skills, you practice it, and a lot of times to become an ethical hacker, you want to, I think I mentioned earlier, you want to deal with HR. You want to get past HR. So sometimes you want a certification. It's not enough to just say, I stayed at home and I spent X hours on, these various labs. Now try Hack Me and Hack the Box. They do have certificates. How useful they will be to an employer sometimes is questionable. And that's where sometimes going for a certification, just like a degree has been for many employers, it demonstrates that you followed a specific curriculum, and that curriculum had been recognized as having all of the skills that someone would need. And so, for instance, that college degree, if you want that college degree in fine arts, you've learned all about these different types of arts, and you followed this whole course over that period of time. And so if you are working for an art gallery, or art historian, you have the skills that you need. And so when we apply that to the technology field, you don't necessarily need to get another computer science degree. If you want, and another option is you can get a certification as a way to expedite that quite often. If you're looking at, I just want to do the ethical hacking piece of it. Because when you look at some computer science degrees, cybersecurity degrees, it's going to have programming in it. It's going to have forensics in it. It's going to have risk management architecture. And if you just want to hone in on one thing, that's where a certificate falls in. But it tells the hiring person that your knowledge has been quantified against a measurement that has been deemed relevant in the industry to some level.
Got it. Got it. All right. So just to summarize, you're saying that someone should be knowing the fundamentals of networking. Someone should know Linux. And I mean, would you like to add to this list as well any other security tools that someone should be knowing apart from Nmap, Wireshark, anything else that you would recommend to our learners?
Well, we mentioned Linux fundamentals,
Yeah.
because I mentioned that, understanding Linux, and then, you would probably use some sort of a distribution specific for penetration testing. So Linux distributions include Kali Linux, Parrot Security,
Got it.
etc. There are others like Arch, and Black Arch. Arch is not for the faint of heart. It's you get comfortable with Kali Linux and Parrot first. Now the tools. Now both of those, Kali Linux and Parrot Security, think of it as, here is an operating system and it comes with a whole set of security tools already baked right in. And so remember earlier, back to the 5 phases, scanning was very important. And so Nmap is your tool there. It's the go-to. It's open source. Nmap actually runs on Windows as well as Linux. Usually I still would want to run a lot of my penetration testing tools inside of a virtual machine, because I don't run a penetration test every single day. And so I want to keep that image separate. Wireshark allows you to see what literally is going across that wire. So it's giving you that visibility, whether it is scanning for a vulnerable system, trying to perform a denial of service, or if you're trying to manipulate a web application, Wireshark can give you some information because it's working at the network layer. There are some other security tools that you could use. You could use Burp Suite, OWASP Zap, or web proxies. So if it's a web application, and you pretty much find these are tools that you learned what's going on there. And to answer that question, Wireshark is not very great with HTTPS. Yeah, there's a reason. HTTPS is encrypted. And so Wireshark, and the whole beauty of encryption is, I take data, I encrypt it, I send it across an untrusted network. Nobody knows until it gets to the destination. That's why Wireshark is not so good with HTTPS, because yeah, Wireshark is looking at the traffic, but it has been scrambled, right? That's the encryption, is scrambling that data up and making it unreadable, right? I'm trying to think and scripting. We mentioned scripting earlier, just because you want to save yourself some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You may, if you make ethical hacking your career, you're going to inevitably at some point learn a bit of programming if you want to develop your own custom malware and things of that sort.
Got it.
But a lot of times you can still be a penetration tester without full development skills.
Yes. Got it. Understood. So I think on to some certifications now. You did mention that, an option to kind of not exactly, yeah, maybe fast track your way to starting a career here is getting a certification. So I know we're going to talk about CEH. You already mentioned what the course covers, but if you could also highlight how Security Plus and OSCP are also great options for someone to get started. And I think it's right to mention here that we don't offer the OSCP certification, but we do offer Security Plus. So yeah, maybe if you can just highlight how these certifications help.
Yeah, so it's like a badge, right? And it's a badge that's recognized.
Mm.
So it's not just I've sat in my basement and I ran some things while I was watching television late at night, etc. That was how I started my career years ago, and I got very lucky to find an employer who, I was already working and doing something else for them. Uh, but if you're trying to transition to a new employer, they're going to look to have your skills been measured. And offensive security, they have their own certification programs. And I always keep an eye on this because you look at job postings to see if the job postings are mentioning this certification.
Mm.
Usually, if you see OSCP, you're going to see CEH next to it,
Mm.
where they want you to have one of. And OSCP comes up a lot. Uh, CEH comes up a lot.
Mm.
If you're choosing to work for some contracting companies, the CEH may be more recognizable in some cases because
Mm.
it does appear on, sometimes there will be checklists that the
Mm.
organization has adopted,
Mm.
or the clients want to see that. Like when I was performing engagements for healthcare institutions, they wanted to see the badges that I had, and the CEH was a badge that they valued. And they did. I would be sitting. We were a small company at the time, and I'd be sitting next to the owner of the company,
Mm.
and the client or prospective client at that time would have this book and say, "Why should I hire you to do this job?"
Mm.
And the owner of the company would reply back and sort of glance over at me and say, "Well, Bill's a great guy because Bill has X and Z, Y and Z. He has these certifications which will actually be tailored and perfect for you
Mm.
because we've I had already passed all these certification exams, which are known recognizable standards.
Right.
Security Plus does not is like if I had to put them side by side, I'd say Security Plus and then CEH is the progression. If you just wanted to say I want to take a step at a time, you would do the Security Plus first.
Mm.
Although what's funny is that if you could pass the CEH, if you attempt the CEH, your climb to CEH is going to be a little bit more challenging, but oftentimes you could kind of go back and take the Security Plus afterwards anyway,
Mm.
because you learn the network, you learn the security pieces of it. Security Plus is meant for defenders.
Mm.
That are defending a system, architecting a system and defending it. The CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacker, it actually has a little bit of pieces of both. When you go through the curriculum, they tell you how to break it, and then they also tell you how to protect against it. So ESA Council has tried to make that a real all-encompassing kind of approach. And so if you're thinking, oh, maybe I want my CEH, or maybe I also want my Security Plus, but I only want to take one course. The
Mm.
CEH will address like the lion's share of that
Right.
because this is how I broke it. How do I protect against it? And of course, that goes back to that reporting piece. Remember, how do you give value to an organization? It's not just that I broke into it. That's great.
Mm.
What does an organization want to know? At a high level, how do I fix that?
Mm. Mm.
That's,
Got it.
they're concerned about what you got access to, but they also want to know, okay, how do I fix it? And maybe not step by step, but at a high level at least. And that's
Right.
where, OSCP and CEH, they try to address that.
Mm. Got it. Understood. So, Bill, I think we've got half an hour, so we just have to like really move through the slides quickly. We also have a few questions. Learners, just give us some time. We'll come to that. So let's just talk about some career options. We've got a few, lined up in the upcoming slides, but uh, here, I mean, most learners, I'm assuming, are wanting to transition to becoming an ethical hacker or just enter cybersecurity domain for that matter. So I know we've got a few career options like pen tester, we've got security analyst, we've got vulnerability assessor, and we've also got some, options for people who already have some experience, want to advance into mid or senior level positions. So what would you advise someone who's just starting out? What roles should they be picking? Should they be picking a pen tester or a vulnerability tester or security analysis? What do you think?
Well, what I have found is it is it is possible in some organizations to jump directly to a penetration tester,
Right.
ethical hacker, pen tester.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a slide that talks about security analyst.
Hmm.
The security analyst, there are some organizations that if you don't have experience, or like say you pass the certification, but you don't have the experience, and they're still not sure about you, they'll bring you as a security analyst, and that'll be your stepping stone.
Hmm.
Okay, we bring you as a security analyst, we assign you these various roles, we see how you do, and over time, you could transition into that ethical hacker role. So sometimes if you don't have the experience, you may be brought in as a security analyst,
Hmm.
service desk, cybersecurity analyst type solutions.
Hmm.
And I forget the third option we had here, the
Vulnerability.
vulnerability assessor.
Hmm.
Um, that it is possible to come in. It just like pen tester, it is possible to come directly in as that. Some organizations they might want to see that they may want to see how you work as as a security analyst first. But that's you can move from one role to another. And I think we mentioned the CISO or the Chief Information Security Officer. And it's always funny. People ask me, I talk to a lot of people that are in senior roles, and they say, well, why does the CISO need to understand penetration testing? Well, the CISO is not going to be performing penetration testing day in and day out at all, right? Unless it's a very small organization, that's not their job. But you know what? That CISO is going to have to hire a pen tester. So the CISO should know what goes into a pen test so they don't get the wool pulled over their eyes. Because there's a big difference between a vulnerability assessment and a penetration test. And in one of my roles, I did have that call come in. And it was someone who they basically tried to call on a favor that they knew me. And they said, well, we want to run this scan. And it'll be, I don't know, $20,000. I'll just put a number out there, right? And I ask him, I say, okay, so what tools are you going to use? And he says, oh, well, we're going to use, I think it was OpenVAS. That was the tool that he said he was going to use. And I said, but I replied back to him. I said, no, you don't understand. I asked for a penetration test. So vulnerability assessor can be very valuable because this tells you the vulnerabilities that are present in your environment and can assess the damage that could be done if this vulnerability was not addressed. Penetration tester basically starts with that vulnerability assessment and then just goes ahead and exploits it. So we do find there are career roles that are looking at vulnerability assessors and they just stay on the assessment side of things. They look at those CVEs like I did earlier this week, looking at the Microsoft vulnerability. I'm looking to see, okay, how do you exploit it? And as I'm looking at it, I find out that, well, it has to be a domain controller. Okay, so the assessor is helping prioritize which vulnerabilities to address first.
Hmm. Got it. So there's a question on the Q&A box. Is it also important to learn about SIEM or SOAR? Is knowledge here important? Because we're learning, vulnerability and penetration testing, but how important is it to learn about SIEM?
And I'll type this in the chat box as I say this here.
Yeah.
SIM, yeah, that's right. SIM, SIEM, security, information, and event management,
Hmm.
e.g. Splunk, Sumo, and my typing may be wrong here because I'm trying to type while talk at the same time. Sumo Logic, Elk. I'll say Elk Stack. Someone will say, but it's Elastic now. Oh, well, okay. You know, if I say Elk Stack and I put it in Google, it'll take you to the right place. It'll get you where you need to go. So these SIM tools, they're the logging systems. As penetration testers, you want to steer clear of them. You
Hmm.
want to know how they work so you can try to steer clear of them. If it is in scope for you to clear the logs, then you would want to be aware of them and perhaps know of ways to go in and clear those logs.
Hmm.
Now, and then before you clear logs, you always have to make sure that you're within your rules of the scope and the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement will say you can do this, you can't do this. Can you deploy malware? Yes or no, right? Can you wipe out SIM logs? A lot of organizations, unless they're going to say no. Show us you're in a position to, but don't actually delete the SIM. Don't actually delete the SIM log because that's your historical data.
Hmm. Got it.
Now, the other term that was mentioned there was SOAR.
Yeah.
SOAR is your security operations.
Hmm.
So SOAR is your security orchestration, automated response. And I don't know, right now, this screen here is yelling at me about my typing here, but basically it is automating the response.
Hmm.
So there's orchestration, and let me correct this first word here. It is security, and I think I have it correct there now. So it's basically a SOAR. You could do, say, like a 24/7 operation without someone looking at it. And so it's automating the response that what a person would do.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, I've got a machine and there was a malware detection. SIM would tell you the malware detection could feed into your SIM. So now you've got an entry in a log and you've alerted, right? You sent text messages, phone calls, etc., to all these various stakeholders, these various people who are assigned roles. SOAR would automate the response and it could disconnect the vulnerable machine, disconnect the machine from the network, quarantine it, so to speak, right? Or it could activate some other logging utilities, and it's automating the response because there is a lag time, right? You get this alert that comes in, overnight. It's going to take them time
Hmm.
they may not answer right away.
Sure.
So I think there's your answers for your SIM and your SOAR.
Right.
And as a hacker, I want to be aware of them so I can steer clear of them. It
Hmm.
may be in scope to see if I can wipe out logs or to be in the position that I could if I wanted. So that might be part of your scope.
Got it. All right. So, great. So we'll just come back to questions after we cover the next few slides. So, what if someone wants to take up some mid or advanced level positions? What is your suggestions to them? I know we have a few roles here: red team specialist, incident responder, also a CISO is a great option. Is a great growth path as well. But is there anything else you would suggest, or a pathway, a learning pathway, sort of, to reach these roles?
Well, I mentioned earlier that as a chief information security officer, you are no longer performing the day-to-day ethical hacking or penetration
Absolutely.
testing, but you need to know what a penetration test is and what a penetration test is not, or where it's going to fall short.
Right.
That was where that friend of mine, I said to them, I need you to come back with a real quote. Don't pull the wool over my eyes, right?
Right.
And that's because I've done the ethical hacking in the past, and I know the kind of tools that I say. Okay, what are the tools you're going to use? And he comes back with a list of tools that I know are just simply vulnerability scanning tools.
Mm.
The there's actually a color wheel for the red team. There's blue team, red team,
Yeah.
yellow team. So you could be they actually the yellows are your builders, the red
Mm.
team are your attackers, and the red team are your attackers, and the blue team are your defenders.
Right.
So you could also call it the bad triangle. And then if you have partnerships, those colors are where you have exercises. And so they could a red teaming exercise. It would involve an organization testing their own defenses. Maybe they want to see if the service desk answers. They want to see if the security analysts detect this. And so you have someone trying to break into the system, right? They're your attackers that are coming in. And then you also sometimes want to see how your defenders respond.
Yeah.
And and there are different roles, like there are service providers that you can work for. So you could work for a company or you could work for a service provider. And so it, you know, you could choose the path that works for you. And if you choose one thing, it does not isolate you from the rest of it. I think that would be the key thing. It's you're knowing how to conduct a penetration test is something that a CISO has to know.
Right.
Uh, and if it's going to take you years because you're transitioning careers, you're not going to become a CISO until you have, I, I, I think it's 10 is the shortest I've seen.
Hmm.
For to be a CISO, they're looking for you to have, oftentimes 10 or more years of experience. And so your ethical hacker certification is not a waste of time. It's one of the steps to get you there.
Right. All right. I think these career paths should give the learner some clarity about what kind of roles. Yes, Kiran, we will be sharing the slide deck as well when we share the recording. But from whatever we've told you right now and from whatever you've understood about these roles, what you could tell us is which role which role interests you the most. So we could also ask this question to our live audience, so people on YouTube, LinkedIn can also answer this question. And from whatever you understood right now, could let us know which career option you're drawn to the most. Let me see if you've got any answers here on the chat. You could answer security analyst. Okay. Anyone else who wants to share, which one seems the most attractive? Pen tester. Okay. Great. Great. Right.
It's fun to break things, especially when you have permission to do it.
Yeah, I know, right? It's fun to break. Absolutely. And that's why I think the role of a penetration tester is interesting. Okay, great. I think, Bill, you already did mention about how, our course helps. So someone was asking about Splunk. Also, someone had a question about Wireshark. We'll just take that right now. So what this course really helps you with is helping you with detecting threats with tools like Splunk and Wireshark, obviously simulate attacks that make you think like a hacker, work like a hacker, analyze malware and respond to security incidents. Remember what Bill said, you actually doing a lot of reporting as a part of the job. So your communication skills are key as well. So which is why, another thing that this course will help you with is, of course, confidence to speak the language of cybersecurity fluently, as in, you would be able to convince someone that you would get past the HR round, which is what Bill mentioned as well. So Bill, we got a question on the Q&A box about Wireshark. So I'm just going to take that right now because this is relevant. Someone had a question about how does data flow and intercept and get intercepted in Wireshark?
At the simplest level, the Wireshark inserts itself as a promiscuous mode type of receiver of the data because we have applications
Mm-hmm.
that pass through these logical layers
Mm-hmm.
before they get sent to another system and they're received at the destination. And
Right.
Wireshark basically hooks onto that network interface card and says, send me everything, send me a copy of everything you see. And it's going to do so on
Mm.
those frame by frame basis.
Mm.
So it's way down, like in the OSI model, it's hooking in there at layer two.
Right.
And it's saying, okay, show me a copy of all those frames. And that can be used. And someone had said, well, I can, I could take that data and I can export it to something else. Yes, that is absolutely possible. And Wireshark is a tool that could be used to capture that data that then could be used for cracking, for instance, a wireless access point password, because that negotiation passes through the wireless access point. And so that might be something you're using Wireshark for.
Got it. Okay, understood. Someone had a question about Expo, but we'll just take that, after we talk about the curriculum. So if you can just take the learners through the curriculum, and then I will summarize the course and the enrollment steps.
Sure. Yeah, the CEH curriculum is designed that they explain what ethical hacking is, what ethical hacking is not. Because it's important to know the basics. Because if you don't know the rules of engagement, you can
Sorry.
get yourself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then we talk about malware. We also talk about social engineering. Social engineering, tricking people to do things that you want them to do. Showing up at a door with a box of donuts. Yep, you're trying to get access to that building, and well, gee, who wouldn't like those donuts? I mentioned footprinting and reconnaissance. Part of that, the reconnaissance and the footprint of the scanning, to learn about the systems, to learn about the facilities, to learn about the times of things of that sort. And then moving on into, okay, now that I know what the system is, let me scan the network, let me find the vulnerabilities, right? The curriculum includes modules for web and mobile hacking techniques because they're customized with those different environments.
Right.
And we talk about reporting in the CEH curriculum also. I think on our next slide,
Talks about the certificate that the learners receive. Talks about, this is how your certificate looks like. Of course, it says CEH v11. This is an outdated certificate that you will also find on the course page, but you will get the certificate from EC Council within 90 days and also get a badge on the EC Council portal. You get a course completion transcript, and of course, digital and physical program transcripts as well that kind of add to your credential and help you apply for jobs. Now, one critical question that I'm sure a lot of learners, actually someone on LinkedIn also had this question. We also had this question on the Q&A box. So let's say someone, develops these skills, earns a certification, there's a lot of practice with home labs on their own, whatever, is kind of equipped, to prepare and give interviews. They still don't get callbacks. What are they doing wrongly? What do you think?
well, okay, there's multiple. You kind of have to do a root cause analysis on that, and I will keep it short and sweet here because I know we're probably getting close to our end of time here.
Yeah.
I will say that there are some resume templates that are out there that are very, very bad because AI is now processing your resume. And AI does not like that pretty column that Microsoft Word says is wonderful and pretty, and AI does not like it at all. And it will just chew up your resume and make it like paper mache almost. The other thing, of course, is don't count on AI to word your resume. Somebody who is reading your resume, when a person gets it, they will look at that resume and they will say, if it took you 20 words to say something that you could have said in 8, is this the person I want to hire?
Right.
And the previous roles should be rephrased. You need to have multiple resumes, really a resume for every single job. You customize it for each of those employers, and you focus on the areas. It almost is like repeating back the job description back to the recruiter.
Sure. Got it.
Yep. Sometimes, and it's, of course, make sure you're applying for the right jobs that make sense for you. That you have a story to tell about your experience. So, I'd like to be a CISO. Do you have 10 years of experience? That's about the minimum for a CISO. with only a few exceptions.
Mm.
I can think of very few that I've ever seen is, they're going to want certain years of experience. And so if you apply for a job that you're totally underqualified for, you're
Right.
not going to get a call back. Uh, we are in a weird time right now with some employers. Some employers will have a role and then that role gets pulled away. That happens sometimes as well.
Mm.
Uh, they, so it's just whenever you're submitting a resume, it should be in an ATS friendly format. And it should be truthful and truthful and concise.
Mm. Correct. Got it. Got it. Got it. So I'm just going to take over here again and talk about what else you get as a part of enrolling in the course. Of course, you have solid learning experience where you can access your live classes and the self-learning content as well. And let's say you miss a class, you're able to access the recording. And then there's a dedicated cohort manager helping you understand all your questions about, whether it's your progress, whether it's talking to your mentor or your trainer and helping, you understand how you can navigate your curriculum and the learning content as well, right? So the sessions are obviously going to be slightly longer and much more detailed, where you have the option to also talk to the trainer live, interact with them, ask your questions, unlike what you're doing right now, where it's more moderated. I'm kind of moderating the questions and sharing it with Bill, but it's not like that in an actual cohort. It's much more interactive. You also get to see what the peers are like, what their backgrounds are, as in, when your peers ask questions, when they interact in the session, you kind of understand what their backgrounds are like, and that also kind of adds to your learning. Okay, it's slightly, obviously, a lot different from what you're seeing in this webinar, which is why, you may be slightly unhappy about certain questions not being answered because they're not relevant to what we're discussing today. But if time permits, I will take them. Just quickly, very quickly, I'm just going to talk about career support. Someone asked about career support here. So this is actually available in the long-term programs. I'm not sure. Let me check if it's there. No, so we don't have career support. I'm so sorry. I think we should have taken this off. But let's say you do take a longer program with us, say, triple ITB course or an IIT Kanpur course or the Purdue Cybersecurity course. That's when you have this option of career support. For certifications, not so much. And of course, you could take a look at how some of our learners leveraged this particular course, went on to choose roles in ethical hacking as well. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually shared the link to the course page on the chat, and you could take a look at the curriculum, at some of our learners' stories, and also understand who your trainers are going to be, what our cohorts are like, and all of that. Okay, so how are you going to enroll? How can you be a part of an upcoming cohort? It's very simple. So I'm just going to launch a very quick poll. And, this poll will ask you if you're interested in the program and talking to a learning advisor. You could select a yes if you're interested. And you can expect a call anytime tomorrow morning. If you live in India or anywhere else in the world, you should be receiving a call tomorrow morning. But let's say you live in the US, you should be expecting a call in the next few hours. Let the learning advisor know about your needs, when you want to start the cohort. Also ask the right questions about, what who's your trainer going to be, what the curriculum entails, and all of that. And let's say you're interested, start. The learning advisor will help you with the dates. Okay, so I've just launched this poll, and this is how the course fee looks like. So for learners in India, it's 49, close to 50,000 Indian rupees, and for the learners in the US, about $2,000. Okay, now you might be wondering when your cohort's starting. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, show you the course page. Okay, so remember, this freedom sale is on for courses in India, for learners in India, the 10% off on courses. And if you're interested, it's just a limited time offer. You can use the coupon code freedom10 to become a part of our upcoming cohort. Okay, now this is going to show the prices in US dollars. But anyway, if you click on enroll now, what happens is you're directed to a page that shows you the upcoming cohorts. So the upcoming cohort starts on the 4th of September, about 3 weeks away. And, these are your timings. Okay. And also you have the class calendar here. Okay. So you could check out, so these are your class timings, 10:30 to 12:30 Central Time. Sure if I could show this to you in Indian time. Anyway, if you open the course page, or maybe open this link that I'm about to share on the chat, you will be able to see the schedule in whichever region you are in. Okay. And there's something known as a flexi pass, which is, a facility which enables you to reschedule your cohort in the first 90 days of enrolling. Okay. And these are for the live online classes. Yes. And so remember the poll that I just launched, in case you want to be a part of our cohort. To ensure to click on a yes, and you have the option to talk to a learning advisor. Okay, right? And of course, you can choose an upcoming cohort, but you could still pay and use the flexi pass to kind of reschedule to any time in the first 3 months of enrolling, right? And someone was asking for free resources about getting started with, learning about ethical hacking. So one particular resource or a tool that I have in mind is the Simply Mentor GPT, which we actually very recently launched. So I'm not sure if you learners have or use this tool as of now. What I'm going to do is just share the link to the tool right away. And because we've got very less time, we need to also wrap up the session. So I'm just going to share the link on the chat. Just give me a minute. And you can explore this tool and ask Simply Mentor about, give me free resources from the internet that I can use to prepare or, kickstart my learning journey in ethical hacking. So there you go. Just going to share that link as well.
And if I could jump in, I realized when we were talking about the certifications and you were talking about the certificate, and I think maybe there was a slide that was hidden there. With the CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, it is a curriculum. And so the certificate you were talking about was an example of the completion certificate. That you attend the class, you get a certificate that says you finished the class. And right then and there, I could put that badge on my LinkedIn profile or whatever. When you take the CEH course, your course pack typically includes the exam. You get an attempt at the exam. And then if you pass that exam, that's a different badge that you can put on your social media platform. And that's that certification that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to also mention, because we talked about OSCP versus CEH, the OSCP is a 24-hour exam. The CEH only takes a few hours, and you can test remotely from your home or your office.
Right.
So it's a shorter time window. It's easier to schedule that exam. And if you pass the exam, that's where you get that certificate.
Got it.
And an EC Council is very specific. If it is a CEH class, which this is a CEH class, and it is using EC Council curriculum. If it's using the EC Council curriculum, that means you get access not just to labs that like Simplilearn develop, but you get direct access to EC Council's labs, which are fully, you get the documentation of the steps, you get a full lab environment that you can work in, and I believe you get 6 months of access, roughly.
That's exactly what I think I've shared. Yeah, I have shared my screen. So yeah, 6
there
months.
It is. Yep.
6 months of access to the EC Council labs, the exam vouchers included, all of that you said is absolutely valid. So we are actually the accredited training partner of EC Council. And through this course, you also are able to access latest course material from EC Council. So these are some additional advantages that you get as a part of enrolling into this program. So we've actually launched this poll, so make sure you Click a yes if you're interested in being part of the upcoming cohort. Some of you are already a part of this course. Some of you have taken the other courses. The Cybersecurity Expert Master's program actually, I think, includes CEH. I'm not sure if it's correct. But let's say you're interested in any other program as well. Totally fine. You could still talk to the learning advisor and let them know your preferences, and they can guide you to the right person if they are not able to answer your question directly. Okay, right. So I think I'm just going to end the poll right here. If there are any more people who are interested, just use the next 1 minute to quickly say a yes so that you could talk to a learning advisor. And meanwhile, this person who is very, very passionate about Expo, I'm just going to take that question and then we'll wrap up the session, Bill. So this learner had a question a long time back, said, as recently Expo is introduced, is a number one. Okay, I'm just going to say this, read this question once again, sorry. As recently Expo is introduced, which is ranked number 1, hacker 1 in US leaderboard, which means number 1 hacker in the world. Okay. Will cybersecurity jobs be sustainable in the future? So I think he's asking this question about whether Expo, which is an AI platform that autonomously finds, exploits, and reports vulnerabilities, is it going to kind of replace human level penetration testing jobs?
Well, the marketing language says that it will, and automation does save time. So and that's where they actually they're saying was scale your team because you're using automation. You still have to have somebody. I think we kind of talked about that earlier with AI in general, and that AI is going to speed up certain repetitive tasks. It's going to make it easier to perform certain tasks, and that does affect part of the job market, if you will. If it can be done faster, that affects the number of people you need to do the job. It sort of gets offset by the fact that more and more people are using technology for more and more things. So, I think Expo, it does definitely fill a gap. It automates a large part of what and so organizations would actually be more tempted to run those scans more frequently instead of once a year. They might run it once a quarter. But is it going to replace cybersecurity? No. It's just going to reallocate, really. And we still need humans to vet or validate these responses.
Yeah, you actually mentioned this as well. Yeah, you did mention this about how AI is going to make your job slightly easier, but you would still need human intervention to vet, to kind of vouch for the information that AI gives. You're not going to be trusting AI completely with, whatever decisions it's making. Yeah. All right, so I hope that answers the learner's question. I'm going to end this poll right here and quickly start another poll that asks you your name. Please don't enter anything else, because I've had this before I launched this poll about giving you, your certificate. Please make sure you enter only your name, because if you enter anything else, the formula kind of filters it out, and then your name gets filtered out of the list. So make sure you are entering your name, only your full name, in the poll that I've launched. And I'm going to answer this once again. You're going to receive your certificate tomorrow evening with the recording and the deck. Okay, tomorrow evening, India time, right? So by the same time tomorrow, you should have your certificate. If you don't receive it, then you drop me an email at webinars@simplilearn.net. But please don't drop me an email before that, because we're still preparing your certificates. We're still preparing, getting the whole list sorted of how many people attended, who will receive the certificate and all of that. Okay, is that clear? If you've dropped your name and you've understood the instruction, please just give me a thumbs up so that I know you're clear there, because we receive a lot of these emails from learners right after the webinar. So I'm just trying to clarify that you will not get it immediately. So the recording, the deck, and the certificate will be available to you by the same time tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, I think unable to hit the summit. The poll is fine. just submit your name on the poll and click on submit. Yeah. On the poll, guys, on the poll, not on the chat box. I'm switching off the chat box for a while until I keep the poll live.
Yeah, I guess we could turn off the everyone feature.
No, I think I just turned off, the entire chat because it kind of confuses the other learners, and then they just use the chat, and then they forget that the poll was live, and then questions keep coming on the email saying, "Hey, what happened to my certificate?" So that happens only when they submit the answer on the poll. Anyway, Bill, it was great hosting you again, listening to your advice as well. Made me think if I should become an ethical hacker as well. But anyway, any last thoughts, closing thoughts before we end?
You're choosing to become a penetration tester. You could become a pen tester day in and day out. And that could be your career, or you could choose to move on to other careers. You're still going to want to have a good foundation in what penetration testing is. And so it's really because it really does help. I've even found that it helps with the whole concepts of the risk assessment and threat modeling, because it was that curiosity that CEH reminded me, right? The ethical hacking reminded me to be curious and to think about ways you can enter into a system or defeat certain controls or get the system to give you information. And so when you do move on to more senior positions, you have to think about, okay, well, how could this, I can't take a vendor's word. I have to think, what are the pain points of this product? How could this product be broken? And, have they vetted this product? So I hopefully this was good information from everyone. Whether you choose to attend a class or not, hopefully you found something helpful. And if you do choose to pursue the CEH, we look forward to seeing you in a class.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to seeing you in a class. And I think I'm just going to open up the chat box now and also end the poll in the next 1 minute. So please quickly submit your names on the poll there and let Bill know in your thoughts as well about the session. And when you actually leave the session, there's a survey for you to fill. Let us know your experience. Any closing thoughts for Bill? Anything that you would like to hear from Bill next would be great, actually. Let us know on the chat. Yeah. But anyway, great hosting you, Bill. Thanks for your time again. And thanks for making it despite the hectic travel that you've had. Someone actually, passed on this message to you saying, "Hey, Bill, I hope you get some rest." So yeah, I do hope you get rest here.
I know, I just flew in and boy, are my arms tired.
Anyway, it was great time again. And yes, you will receive the deck tomorrow, learners. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
I'm just going to stop sharing and end the poll right here. Yeah. I'll see you once again. Bye-bye.